Violence should be discouraged, particularly political violence, as it has negative impact in our democracy and on our social, economic and political development of our country, Nigeria. Political violence in Nigerian democracy has become intractable because of ethnicism, party and political interest, which have become a modern-day parlance in public governance and the Nigerian democracy. While godfatherism, which is a famous concept, may have found its roots in the political sphere of the Nigerian politics, arising from the inability of most contestants in an election to stand on their own and contest elections. In the political setting today, both concepts, ethnicism, political interest, and godfatherism, though parochial, are ideologies championed on the belief that certain individuals possess considerable means to unilaterally determine who gets a party ticket to run for election, who wins in the electoral contest, and who is to be appointed to occupy juicy positions in government. When these happen, it gives rise to political upheavals, violence, and insurgence in our democratic system, arising from the endless struggle to outwit positions. As a result of this, security becomes paramount in the political environment. Security ensures peace of mind and the possibility to sleep relaxed. Security implies stability and continuity of existence of the human life in the society. Since society is paramount in everyday life, insecurity and violence, which have become a topical issue in today's Nigerian democratic exercise, implies the inability to cope with shock or misfortune. Therefore, increase in violence and insecurity results in pervasive anxiety and fear, and so becomes detrimental to the survival of the nation's fledgling democracy. Democracy aims at the exclusion of violence and should render violence unnecessary. All groups and individuals should be able to express their views and interests through a process of rational deliberation.
Violence in democracy is very, very unnecessary, because democracy has to do with superior argument. Democracy has to do with what do you have to contribute? What are you bringing to the table? What value will you add to national development? So when there is violence, it will deter the development of the people and environment, and particularly in democracy, because any governance is for the betterment of the people, it's for the development of the people. So when violence becomes the order of the day, people are afraid, people cannot participate, people cannot go out, and people cannot effectively participate in governance and development. So there is retardation everywhere. And so I condemn in entirety any form of violence in a time like this, particularly as we are preparing for election. Democracy is all about arguments. I like this, you don't like it. Superior argument. It's not by fighting. So like the one that happened in the palace the other day, if somebody is saying, one group is saying this person is only this, then abuse the person back. You don't have to pick up the gun and start shooting people's children. And as women, we condemn that action in entirety, and we cannot fold our hands and watch people killing our children in the name of we want to contest election, in the name of we want to win election. It's unacceptable. So if a particular group is insulting somebody, insult back. It's argument, superior argument. You exchange ideas, you exchange facts, you exchange arguments, and that argument should end up with you who have a superior argument. The other person will say, okay, I accept your argument, and not to take to the guns and start shooting our dear children. It's unnecessary, it is not called for, it's backwardness, and it does not augur for the development of our society.
Democracy is basically centered around the people. And when you say democracy is of the people, it has some basic ingredients that must be carried along with it. In a democratic setting, the people must be the focal point of the thinking and calculation of any democratic dispensation. And in addition, it must be centered around some basic ingredients, which include freedom of expression, which of course has to do with free press. It has to do with meeting the yearnings and aspirations of the vast majority of the people. So that is why you see, in a democratic setting, if you say government is centered around the people, the majority decision and their comfort, their well-being, voice of the minority must be heard. These are the ingredients that cooked a democratic setting. There is no room whatsoever for violence. Violence connotes intimidations, connotes oppression, connotes suppression, and outright subjugation. So for those that want to be bringing or introducing violence to our democratic setting, the only reason to do it is to subject the will of the people to serious annihilation. They want to suppress the will of the people. If the people must decide, you don't need violence for the people to decide. Because democracy as it is where, is what has to do with the value that increases the life well-being of the people.
The issue of violence, political violence, is in our body politic is becoming very rampant, and it's condemnable, it's reprehensible. And I want to also say very clearly that people who are occupying sensitive positions, some of them are also advocating for violence, and that is unacceptable. We must practice democracy in a peaceful atmosphere. We must do it in a conducive atmosphere, and we must be able to cast our vote in a conducive atmosphere. The political environment must not be hit up by violence and by unnecessary distraction. So it is my own view that political violence should be discouraged in totality, because it not only affects our body politic, it also affects the credibility of the government that come into power. If you come into power through violence, through killing, through death, it gives you a credibility problem. And that also affects your performance. And invariably that affects every aspect of governance. And that includes economy, that includes our social life, and that includes our political arrangements. So it is my own view that we must begin to step down our rhetorics of violence, rhetorics of confusion. We must begin to do that. As politicians, it's a responsibility.
There's no doubt in any society where that is not settled or where you don't have peace, hardly can you find development in that society. And of course, even in the Banana Republic, people cannot even gather. How much more can there be any economic activities going on? Therefore, I think for me, anyone who truly loves Nigeria, the first thing we must first of all put at the back of our heart, our mind, is to make sure we advocate for the peaceful coexistence of each and every one of us in this country. Political violence is almost becoming part of our daily life in Nigeria, which is not supposed to be. But we must not also forget in a hurry, a society where a governor or even a president wants to encourage development, wants to attract even investment to his state or his country, all that government must first of all tackle is security. Political violence gives birth to a lot of anomalies, ranging from killings, bloodletting, destruction of people's properties, and of course, for every destruction you make, there's a loss already encountered. I can tell you there are a lot of mineral resources in Borno, in Nasarawa. Some of the northern states where we have gold mine, where we have gold, they have oil, or on and on. You know what we had to suffer in the South, arising from the restiveness of our youth in the Niger Delta region. The militancy began in the Niger Delta region at some point. It was on a very high scale. Of course, if you and I ask and do a thorough assessment of how did we get to where we were, it started from political violence, where politicians end up using the youth to, prosecute their elections, and by the time they get to office, They no longer have those youths in their agenda.
Political power is one of the few ways to access wealth in Nigeria. Politics often becomes what is frequently referred to in Nigeria as a do-or-die affair. Individuals are so desperate to remain or get close to the center of power that they resort to ruthless methods that might be avoided if the economy and society offered other means of supporting themselves and their families. For the same reason, the use of political thugs is a phenomenon that occurs across Nigeria. Widespread poverty and unemployment leave young people, primarily young men, susceptible to informal by politicians. Political violence has increased across Nigeria. Over time, a great deal of violence is associated with jockeying for position within the political parties, resulting in many conflicts, causing countless deaths, injuries, and damage to property, and stoking resentment, hostility, and worsening citizens' confidence in the political system, even in areas that have not been directly affected by political clashes among the candidates and their supporters.
The effect of violence in our political situation in this country today is such as, trying to bring up leaders that will have nothing to write home about in Nigeria tomorrow. You said the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but here we are using our youth to perpetrate crime. We don't use them in the right form. We are teaching them something that is very, very wrong. And most of the persons doing this thing, they have their children in Harvard University and Oxford University, hoping to still use these same person's children tomorrow as either their houseboy or as their dog. So I strongly condemn it in totality, because it's not going to move this nation forward. It's going to set us back 100 years behind, because this winning by all cost, when leaders are desperate, is what is causing this, youth violence. They use them, they give them peanuts, and because the economy of this country is so bad, and they don't have anything to do, they don't have food. No, but if they are engaged, like you that is engaged now, you don't have time to go to Ring Road or go to anywhere to fight for any politician. But because they are, they say, and I don't mind, is the devils for sure. Because they are so docile, when you call them to come and do things like that, they embrace it, because one, they are looking at the peanut that they are going to get. But if we have a good leader that is in power, that is able to engage our youth in, maybe technical jobs, or those ones that went to school. Most of those youth you see, they are all graduates. They are all graduates. Some are with first class, some are with second class, but because they don't have anything to do. Somebody who has stayed home for 10 years, and he finds out that somebody who did not go to school is a thug, he's building houses, driving the best car. He will dump his certificate and put his destiny into his hand.
When we started the democracy many years back, there were issues of violence, ballot box stealing, shooting, killings. We overgrown that. We now grew into a system of the monetary election. And I was praying that after the monetary election, we will be growing to a proper democracy where monetary and violence will no more play any role, but the people and what they believe in. But for what we've seen in this 2020 election of recent, I think it needs to be condemned, right from the federal level, right from the royal houses, and even we, the citizens of Edo State, have to condemn it. Why? Because people can protest. People can speak their mind. There is a popular word I usually use, which is from Fela. He say, "Yabis, not be quarrel." I yab you, you yab me. You know, say, "May you carry bottle break me, you bust my head. Or may you carry blow, punch me for head." He say, "Who punch person?" He say, "I don't want to be sinner." Now, what if Fela talk? Because if we don't knock the ego from down right now, what we're going to see in the election proper will be election of bitterness.
The issue of violence has metamorphosed into what we are now very scared of. But also, I think politics and violence in Nigeria factor is you can hardly separate them due to the selfishness and the unpreparedness of leadership that came since 1999. But I think, is it really a welcome development? For me, no. Because look at the people that the violence entangles upon. It's we, the commoners, that really suffers it a lot. The kids and the family members of these our leaders, most of them are not here. They are living in a syringe environment. And the people that are doing the thuggery and the violence are people, the children of the taxi driver, the market women, and all of that. So I think it also goes down to the bane of bad leadership. Bad leadership gave birth to youthful exuberance. It also gave birth to the violence issue. If our leaders does not take politics as a do or die affair, I don't see the reason why there should be violence. If the people really want you, I don't see where violence will come. But if the people decided to say we don't want you, try to force yourself on the people, it's you see people will want to pay back by retaliating, and when they retaliate, what happens? One go down, two go down. I'm not sure any of our leaders, apart from coronavirus, which has helped us to checkmate our leaders, the youth, the crisis, the political crisis, have never affected them in any form because all of them still sit down in one place to later discuss. But our youth, it's high time they should wake up to the current call to say they should stop violence. Because if they don't stop it, they should see. Right from 1999, they should ask themselves, who are those that really suffer more? Who are those the police will first of all declare wanted? Who are those their parents and people will tag bad people? They have been the one people know as being bad. And no, you will not see any governor's child, any president's child, any senator's child in this issue.
Violence ranges from demonstration to rebellion against a political system or its leaders. In certain circumstances, it is directed especially against some aspects or symbols of the political system. There are roadblocks to a strong democracy in Nigeria at all levels of government. Conflict triggered by political competition and communal, ethnic, religious, or resource allocation rivalries poses a major threat to democracy. Corruption paved the daily lives of Nigerians. Many government institutions do not adequately engage with citizens or the private sectors and lack the capacity to carry out their mandates. Further, civil society lacks both the capacity and the resources to effectively engage with government and advocate for change.
My advice to the entire youth in Edo State, they should not allow themselves to be used by those who don't even know the value of Edo people. My advice to them, they have to be careful so that they will not involve themselves into political toss. They will not involve themselves into crime. So they should behave very well, make sure you do the normal thing accordingly. So most of them have taken it for their own selfish interests, and which is not supposed to be so. Politics is not like that. It's not do or die affair. You must have the reason why you are voting for your candidate or you are supporting your candidate. It's not do or die affair. They should not take it as an issue of we are not enemy or we must kill ourselves. It does not worth of killing each other for. So I think everybody should behave very well, do the normal thing accordingly. Political violence is barbaric and is condemnable. We don't need it in democracy. With political violence, this country can never move forward. It is so sad that today our youth have bring themselves so low to become thief of ballot boxes. These politicians today, they are not worth to die for.
My name is Maziskola Edokpai. Democracy, according to Abraham Lincoln, is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It is a government whereby majority decides who they want to pilot the affairs of governance or to represent them in government. When you are popular as a candidate, you mount the rostrum or the soapbox. You demystify your political philosophy, the ideology of your party, and your manifesto in order to woo people into subscribing to your own political philosophy and vote for you on the D-Day or the election day. But today, what we have in Nigeria, in Edo State, is a clear negation of the philosophical claim of democracy. Take a look at what happened at the palace a few weeks ago. It is a show of shame where some youth, in the name of politics, trying to satisfy their sponsors, they began to shoot sporadically. That is not how to play politics. Violence in politics leads to breakdown of law and order. Violence leads to untimely death. I don't see any reason why our politicians, their children, will be, in fact, will be studying in the best schools in the United States of America, in UK, even in Ghana here. But they will decide to use our youth to exhibit violence, to exhibit agberoism, to exhibit hooliganism. Things are not done like that.
Preceding elections and during the election period, the utmost vigilance by political parties, police, and government will always be required to ensure that political tensions are kept in check. The danger of clashes will not necessarily subside once the elections are over. Therefore, the Nigerian government, electoral commission, and police must take serious steps to boost Nigerians' confidence in democracy and the electoral system, thereby prevent the post-election phase from degenerating into a period of violent protest and revenge in response to perceived electoral injustice. Political violence not only lessens individuals' ability to act within the communities, it also undermines the social foundation of a society, rupturing social fabric and often engendering collective senses of fear. Youth homicide and non-factor violence contribute greatly to the global burden of premature death, injury, and disability. It also has a serious, often lifelong impact on a person's psychological and social functioning, which can in turn affect victims, families, friends, communities, and society.
With the response so far, it is obvious that maximum attention and all hands must be on deck to fight violence at all levels. The political parties, government, and security agencies to ensure peace in the country. From Benin, Caroline Okonji reporting.